Hello, I'm Cheryl Meyer, and I'm otherwise known as Cheryl M. Health Muse. And what my goal is to inspire you to lead a healthier life. So when I proposed my podcast, I proposed that we present it in two different segments. The first one is It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future Proof Your Health, where I get to share everything I have learned to return my health back to relative wellness and to live a pain-free life in spite of the fact that I have autoimmune disease. But the second part of my podcast is this episode, and that's Tell Me Your Story, the Health Muse is in. My concept with this is it's all fine and well that you hear me tell my story, but I get a lot of, it's all fine and well that it worked for you, but it's not going to work for me. And I wanted you to hear that there are lots of people out there that have made changes in their lifestyle that have supported their health and brought them back to relative wellness. We all have a couple things in common. We all owned our own health. Whatever the doctor was suggesting we did was going on a parallel path to us making these lifestyle changes where we did things that cleaned up our toxic load. We all pay attention to our body. You'll hear jazz in the background because I want you to listen to the rhythm of your health, and I want you to pay attention to what your body is telling you. My body had been trying to tell me that I was going to topple over into toxic load for some time. I just wasn't listening. So if you clean up your lifestyle and if you listen to your body, you have a very good chance not of being deprived in any way, but returning to feeling darn good. And that's what these podcasts are really all about. So thank you for joining me. This is going to be a Tell Me Your Story, the Health Muse is in episode, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope that we all inspire you to lead a healthier, happier life. Thank you. Welcome to another edition of It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future Proof Your Health. And this is a Tell Me Your Story segment. And I have a fabulous guest for you to listen to today. Her name is Seema Girl. Her last name is Giri, but her handle is Seema Girl because I want you to be able to find her. And like me, she got autoimmune disease. I don't know how many doctors she went to before she found help, but she owned her own health and came out the other end. So I really wanted her to share her story because I am not the only person who's gone through this. So anybody out there with any kind of chronic illness, I do these podcasts as I want to give you hope that wherever you are with your health today does not mean that's where your story ends. So I am thrilled to have Seema join us today, and she's incredibly accomplished. So you're going to be really amazed at how much she's done since she came back to wellness and out of the other end of autoimmune disease. So welcome, Seema. I am so thrilled to have you join us today.
Cheryl, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So why don't you start by telling us how long ago did you start getting sick and when did you figure out that something was really wrong with your body?
So it was about 26, 27 years ago. I'm giving away my age here.
Well, I'm 72, so don't worry about it.
It started in my early 20s. And it started just like, I felt like I had the flu with the body ache and being tired and lethargic. But that continued on for a really long time. And every time I would go to a doctor, they would do their panels of tests and everything would come back normal. And they're like, maybe it's depression or maybe it says, let's try antidepressants or anxiety medicine. And at that point of life, Cheryl, I was really ecstatic. I had just finished college. And as the Indian culture is, as soon as you become independent, let's get you married. So I was recently married 2 years. Everything was going well. We were partying 3 to 4 days a week. My husband was studying at Lehigh University for his master's, and we were having a really great time. I had a job. Everything was perfect. And so I couldn't see a reason to be depressed. But then I was like, you know what? Maybe I am. I just don't know it. I don't know what depression is like. So I followed their guidelines and nothing was helping. And then what started happening was they started calling me a hypochondriac because nothing they were testing was coming out with, anything negative. So this took me to 11 doctors. 11 doctors called me a hypochondriac. And I was at this point beginning to think that maybe I am crazy. Maybe I just don't know what I'm feeling. Maybe I am depressed. I
And
don't know.
isn't it interesting that that's what medicine does? My doctor ran 4 rounds of tests. And finally, she called me and she said, "You say you don't feel good, so I'm going to give you steroids. But what I want you to do is go for mental therapy."
Mm,
I said, "Hey, why would I take steroids if there's nothing wrong with me? I don't like pills, so I'm not going that direction. I am not going to have a life of pain and pills." I said, "But I know my body, and this is not mental. Something is wrong with me. You're not in my body. You can't feel it."
exactly. And that's what I was thinking because thank goodness for that little voice that was barely audible that I was still able to hear, kept saying there's something wrong, there's something wrong. But my family, my parents, my doctors, they were all saying the same thing. And you begin to think when there's so many people saying the same thing, maybe you're the one who's wrong. But I just kept going. I just kept going to another doctor. Finally, the 12th doctor said, he did different kinds of tests. He was younger, so he was a little more innovative. Excuse me, a little bit more innovative. And when he ran the test, autoimmune showed up, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, um, hypothyroid,
He
and
had all the markers
all the markers.
that conventional
Hypothyroid,
medicine doesn't seem to check for.
exactly. And that day was, Cheryl, the happiest day of my life. I cried in his office. And if he wasn't as handsome as he was, I would have jumped up and hugged him. But I was shy. I was like, wow, finally I found out what's wrong with me. There's some solution, there's some hope. And people think like, wow, you were happy? I said, yes, because I found a solution. And most importantly, I found out that I was not going crazy.
Mhm.
I was totally sane. I had everything in place where they were supposed to be. And I just listened to my body and followed its directions, followed its instructions that there is something wrong. And then he went on to put me over time on 25 to 30 different medications.
Oh my
Major-
God.
Majority of them was, like you were saying, steroid based, but that was what I needed at that time to get rid of the pain. So that was, so things slowly got better. I got out of pain. I was able to move and do everything. But what was interesting was I asked several times about my food, and all of the 11, even I think the 12th doctor said, your food won't make much of a difference.
Yeah, they get less than half a day in medical school on food.
Exactly. And I was like, huh, are you sure? But what do I know? I'm not the
You're
doctor,
not the
I'm
doctor,
not the
right?
expert. So things were going well. And then after I had my son, 2 months after I had the delivery of my son, I became bedridden. I was in so much more pain and I couldn't even lift my son. I couldn't hold him. There wasn't, I couldn't enjoy the joys of being a new mom. And that was really frustrating. And then again went to the doctor and they said, you know, this is how your rest of your life is going to be. We can make you as comfortable as possible. And when I looked at my son, and I couldn't hold him. That was the point, one day I looked at him and my whole life flashed in front of me, thinking that I was not going to be part of his life. I was not going to be able to take him to school and pick him up, just the simple things. I was not going to be able to make his meals. I was not going to be able to play with him. He was not going to know who I am if I'm not in his life actively.
And unfortunately, when a conventional doctor says something like that to most people, they consider them to be something that's an old retail. I grew up in retail management, and one of our training seminars talked about the who said of the greatest magnitude. the people we give all our power to, because if they say that's true, it must be. So we
Exactly.
don't even question it. And doctors are in that position. But just because the doctor says it doesn't mean it's true. And you, the only person who can own your own health really is you.
Is you, yeah. So when that day I was so broken, it really broke my heart and scared the hell out of me. And I said, you know what? I am not going to accept this diagnosis. I am going to be part of my son's life. He's going to know who I am, especially after 40 hours of labor and then
Oh
an
my
emergency
God.
C-section. There was no way he is not going to know me. And that's, when you make a decision, I notice, Cheryl, when you make a decision, the right people start showing up in your life.
Yeah.
I had a very dear friend, Veena Singla. Um, she's like a mom to me. And she had gone through several health issues herself, and she had overcome through whole food nutrition. She was a cancer detection specialist, so she knew a lot about food and how that had made difference. So she taught me all of those things. I started on a whole food supplement called Juice Plus. This is vine ripened powdered nutrition in a capsule, which really is available. So it became available in my bloodstream right away. And within 4 months, I was able to take care of myself, get off the bed, simple things like going to the bathroom, dressing myself. And then within 6 months, I was able to hold my son. I was able to snuggle with him. I was able to cuddle with him and do changing the diaper was so exciting.
It's funny how things that other people don't want to do become
Exactly.
incredibly joyful.
Exactly. I was like, wow, I could change the diaper. It was so amazing. And then I realized what were the components that that got me to that level. I had a lot of traumas in my childhood, you know, and then very orthodox kind of parents who, where the girls shouldn't get a lot of visibility and a lot of voice and all of those kind of things. So all of those things eventually got into my body, was in my mind. It's like a record player continuously playing, right? And so those kind of things are what got me to this point. And eventually, my body had to work extra hard to keep going, keep doing the normal things with all of these pressures internally. And then when I was pregnant, it had to work really hard to create a healthy baby, to do all of that. So eventually it really did well until I delivered, and then it was exhausted and says, no more, I can't do it anymore. And that's when I had to start working. I started working first on nutrition and then exercise and then my mindset. And then I added in spirituality. When I added in spirituality, it was just the whole combination of anything that was left just was incorporated into that. And, that's how I was able to at every stage that I was able to do something, I was, move and eat better and think better. I During this time, I was also running a project management consulting and training company with my husband. I was taking care of the entire operations, the back end support, managing the team, all of those things. And it was always ups and downs, ups and downs. It was, I would take off, things would go really well, and then I would get in pain again and get sick and be out for a couple. So it was like a roller coaster. But eventually we got it in place and now I'm
And the
thriving.
body is amazing. The body wants to heal. That was the part
Yes.
that surprised me. When I ate terrible, terrible. I did a sugar detox right before I started to change how I ate. And it was like getting kicked in the gut. I went through such a horrible detox because I was eating nothing but processed food and junk. And I was eating it as fast as I was working because I had my own business. I get home and I was on full speed all day. I was literally living on stress, which I thought was good for me and making me more productive. I have since learned that it detracted. But I would get home and I'd be eating at the same speed as I was working all day long. So my body was getting no nutrition. And when I shifted and started to eat real food, I couldn't believe how my body started to celebrate. It let me know that it was happy and I could see incremental improvements. and
Yeah.
how I felt. Plus, I started eliminating toxins, which I was loaded with. Um, I had fallen into symposiums by the functional medical community. And so I was like mimicking what all these doctors who had medical degrees but got sick and couldn't help themselves were doing as I listened to these 20 different symposiums. And I was lucky because I had a hand on my back leading me to go listen to this and to make those changes. And my body responded. Actually, it took 5 years to completely come back to no pain, but I could feel significant changes within the first 6 weeks. It was amazing how quickly my body started responding.
Well, you knew you were eating the wrong foods and junk food. And there's so many processed foods out there that claim to be healthy. And so you eat that because we don't have enough time. Especially well now we do because we're in pandemic, everyone's at home. But before you had to be in traffic, you had to go to your work and come back and go to different meetings, depending on what kind of job you were in. So cooking time and the time to prepare meals you didn't really have because you were exhausted. So you're going to the grocery stores and getting things that seem to be healthy because they're labeled that way. But if you look at the sugar and the sodium content, it's out of the
For
charts.
all the ingredients you can't pronounce or don't know what they are, your
Exactly.
body doesn't know what those are either.
Exactly. And then the other thing I noticed was, Cheryl, that you and I can be eating the same type of healthy food, but it might not suit you, or what you're
Right.
eating might not suit me. Because I recently realized I was eating all this heart healthy food, right? And I still wasn't able to release some of the weight. And I was getting frustrated because I'm doing the olive oil, I'm doing the vegetables, I'm doing all of that, doing all those gut healthy stuff. Why am I not releasing it? So I got a gut biome test done, and I realized that all this healthy food that I'm eating doesn't suit me. It wasn't actually healthy for me.
Right. Well,
So
we
then,
all have sensitivities. Did you have a bunch of sensitivities to what you were eating? I
uh,
had 18 food
yes,
sensitivities. And so until I eliminated those, I didn't stand a chance. But even
exactly.
after that, because as I explained to you before we started, I have MTHFR, I was loaded with heavy toxic metals. And until I got those out of my body, which took me 2 years, my body wasn't working like a fine oiled machine. So it didn't want to lose the weight yet. It was holding on to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
So,
unless you get everything working the way it's supposed to, your body does. But when you finally do get things working the way they're supposed to, your body starts to release the weight.
yes.
And I've done it incrementally. I lost 40 pounds right away. And then I sat because it ended up, I had mold in the wall behind me where I was sitting in my office. And
Mm,
I'm still working on getting the mold out of my body. But all of a sudden, my body decided, okay, it's time. And I've dropped 20 pounds in the last month and a half just because it said, okay, you've been good to me for this long. Let's let it go.
exactly. So the point I want to stress here is that it's an exploration. So if you have an end goal, for example, it's always usually the weight, right? Or if you're in chronic pain, first it's the pain and then it's the weight. If these are the markers to show you that there's something else going on that you need to explore rather than getting upset. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm not good. I can't do this. I'm never going to get good at it. And we start bashing ourselves. So that's not the
Which
way
is
to
the
go.
last thing we want to do because that
Exactly.
creates upset in our biome as well.
Yeah, because you need to look at all the things you have accomplished, all the things that you have done, and then when you're not able to release weight or not able to do the things that you want to, you should say, what else is going on? It should be like a question mark. You should stop, pause, and and just think through what is happening. What else could it be? And go down that channel.
I was lucky that I found a book pretty early on that at least explained why I wasn't losing weight. And it's called Accidentally Overweight. She's a biochemist, she's not a doctor, but she goes organ system by organ system, talks about what it does, what it's supposed to do when it's not working properly, what it doesn't do, and then how it relates to the next organ system. And so her theory is until your whole body's working the way it's supposed to, it's going to hold on to things like weight. You need to work on your overall health, and
Yes.
then the weight will happen by itself. It has nothing to do with Nutrisystem or doing one of the big diets or buying another diet book or starting a diet with the Last Supper and knowing you're not going to do it forever. It means you adopt eating healthy for the rest of your life and
Yeah.
you let your body systems come into balance. And then, and yes, you have to explore things like sensitivities and whatever was um, bothering your body when you had your biosystem checked.
And the funny thing is that I used to eat a lot of chocolates, but eventually I realized I don't really like them. My body doesn't really want it. But I was still eating it because that was something conditioned over childhood, you know. Every time my father and I would get into an argument, he would bring him chocolate to make up. So it was like, okay, if you want to feel good, if you want to resolve something, it's chocolate. And then the more I was getting to know my body, the more things were clearing out. It's like, I don't even like that. I don't even really enjoy it. Why am I even eating? My body doesn't really want it. So you'll discover these kind of things, and you can just let go of those things.
Yeah, and the reasons that you're eating them, which are part of what's hindering your body from being healthy.
Exactly.
So it's coming to peace with
Yeah.
some of those old habits.
Yes.
So, how long did it take you then? How old was your son? Why don't we measure it that way before you really started to feeling good? Because we know that it got really bad when you gave birth to your son.
Yeah, so it was in phases, right? And because there was no books out there, to help with like this, and no doctors to really believe in me, of doing this, it was my own trial and error. So Juice Plus was the first thing, and then I started exercising. So by the time my son was like a year old, I was able to fully do everything. And then, but then I would have triggers. Then I would notice, I would have to remember what the triggers were. Now, the triggers didn't come into mind until a couple years later because I was frustrated. I would do well, and then things would happen. I would be down out for 3 weeks, and then I'd get back in, and then out for 3 weeks, something like that. So that's how I figured out that there were different triggers that would get me to certain ways.
Yeah,
Um,
and those are now called flares.
Flares, yeah.
It took me a long time to find that word. And why was I
Yeah,
going through what I was going through?
right. Those flare-ups, right? So I lost about good overall like 10 to 12 years of my life, right? Just not being able to get back on track. So I think by the time my son is now 23. So I've been totally pain-free for 10, at least 10 of those years.
Congratulations. Huge,
Yeah.
huge. And are you still taking any of the steroid medications?
No,
Yeah,
I'm
good.
down to one. I'm only on my hypothyroid. I'm trying to figure out why that doesn't want to leave. It's so in love with me. It does not want to leave me yet. So we're working on breaking free with peace, love, and unity and see how what else can be there. But I'm not stressing myself so much over that anymore, Cheryl, to be honest. It's just one medication, and if I have to take that forever, I'm fine with it. But I'm still in the process of trying to find out, you know how I can resolve that as well. And I am speaking generally, so if you think from metaphysical point of view, a spiritual point of view, thyroid is about not being able to express yourself or not able to speak your truth. So the as I'm growing, as I'm learning more, as I am now doing the things that I am supposed to do, what my life's purpose is, it's getting better and better. I'm standing in my power. I'm speaking more of my truth. I'm sharing, like with you and I, we're sharing this more with the world to help other women realize that your past doesn't define you. What others are saying does not make it true. You have to find your own truth and lead with that, have the courage, and you come out of it. So that's, my mission now to help other women do the
Yeah,
same.
you have to learn to get quiet and listen to your body.
Yeah.
I still, every morning when I get up, I look in the mirror and I ask my body, how do you feel today? And there's days when I don't feel so great. And
Yeah.
then I react immediately because I never want to go back to that place where I can't get out of bed because everything hurts. So I start going through my head, what did I do yesterday that might be making me feel this way? What did I eat that might have triggered me to have a little bit of brain fog this morning or to feel like I didn't really get a good night's sleep? I analyze it immediately and I adjust so that within a couple of days I'm back to me and my body's telling me I feel good again. But you have to get quiet and you have to listen.
Yes. And then you have to make sure you're doing the core things all the time, which is sleeping well. So that means going to bed same time every night, getting up same time every morning. Meditation, that has helped me tremendously. Exercise, hydration, make sure you're drinking 50% of your body's weight on a regular basis. And having fun, doing things that you like. You can do something you like every day, even if it's for 5 minutes, but give that time to yourself. Honor yourself and honor your body.
Yeah, I just found a great quote on what self-care truly is anything that brings you joy.
Yes.
And I love that because,
Yes.
people think that it means that they have to go get a massage. It doesn't mean that. If sitting with your cats and giving them love for
Yeah.
15 minutes in the afternoon brings you and them joy, that's self-care.
Yep.
So make sure you do the things that bring you joy.
Or going outside, getting fresh air in the sun. You know,
Yeah,
it's
nature
it's the
always
sim-
brings me joy.
it's the simple things. It's whatever brings a smile to your face, and we keep putting it off. No, after this call, or after this, and after that. Even if you're just standing in front of your window looking out, just or just breathing in and out, focus on your breath. It's just simple things that we don't allow ourselves to enjoy is what gets us with the diseases.
Right. And making sure we're dealing with our stress. That was a
Yeah.
biggie for me. I was so stressed when I got sick. I had almost no cortisol. I was on the border of Addison's disease.
Oh, wow.
But since I hadn't gone into Addison's disease, my conventional doctor was what's to do? You're not diseased. When I got to a functional doctor, she looked at me and said, that's totally ridiculous. We're going to deal with that first. And it wasn't that hard to fix. But we got
Yeah.
my cortisol right back up to the levels that it was supposed to be at. And I learned breathing exercises so
Hmm.
that I could do them a couple times a day to take the top off my high level of stress so that blood went back to my brain and I was functioning productively again.
And many times we always deal with avoidance. Anytime we have a difficult time in our lives, the first way we deal with is avoidance because we don't want to deal with that pain at this time. But what we need to do is accept it. As horrible as it is, you need to feel the pain now. Avoidance just delays everything and it makes it worse because that pain later not is 10 times worse, plus all the things that you're not able to do because you're so busy avoiding it. So pain is pain. You're going to feel it. It's going to hurt. There's no way around it.
And you have to deal with it.
You have to deal with it. So why not now? Process it, move on with it. You won't get sick and you won't put a pause on your life.
Yeah, I like to say I was girl interrupted when I got autoimmune disease because
Yes.
I was going full steam ahead all the time until I couldn't. And
Yeah,
then I couldn't get out of bed. So it was like the universe, they'd been giving me little slaps along the way, and I didn't realize that's what it was until the
exactly.
2x4 came down on my head. And then I couldn't ignore it anymore.
And that's the universe, the law of the universe, that, it gives you messages. It's gentle to begin with. It starts with a whisper, and then it gets louder and louder until it smacks you on the head when you don't get it. So please listen.
Yeah,
Listen to
don't
the
get to that
universe,
point.
listen to your body. Yeah, that's how it is. We can't ignore. So the more I learn about the laws of the universe, the more I learn about spirituality, the more I learn about connecting deeper to myself. I'm now able to pay attention to all of these signs and and make the changes and do the right things for me in the right time. So then I'm not, hit by another two by four.
Right, I know. Well, yeah, I would avoid that two by four like the plague if I had the opportunity.
Yeah.
So, how did your husband accept all these changes in you? Did he grow with you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, most of this was on my own because he was really busy with the business and everything else. And then he was also with the mind that, if the doctors are saying these things, then it must be true. But when he found out, as I was getting better, he, of course, felt really bad for not believing me at that time. But it's a natural thing. When everyone is saying, then you feel that way too. So yeah, he was really ecstatic because less burden on him, less work on him. We were able to enjoy each other's company, do things that we wanted. Family life was so much better. We were able to travel and have fun and explore different places, have parties, have people come over, and versus me being in bed and on medication and the doctors and the doctor visits and all of that, and me feeling frustrated. And of course, he would feel frustrated also, not knowing, what's going on and what to do and how long it's going to be. Does he stay with me or does he go to work and the meetings and keep things going? So it was a lot of despair on his side too. So yes, as I was getting healthier, life was becoming more beautiful the way it was meant to be. We were getting happier, and as a family growing.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, you've accomplished an unbelievable amount since you came out the other end of the autoimmune disease. So, I want you to talk a little bit about what your path has been like since you're feeling healthy again.
I've started doing a lot of public speaking, which I thought I'd never do because I used to be so scared to get in front. And I can remember my speech teachers, they would negotiate with me, Seema, please just go and stand in front of the classroom, don't say a thing. And now I'm actively doing public speaking and sharing my story. I have started to compile books. My first book that I wrote, I had an opportunity to share my story with three of the New York Times bestselling authors: Dr. John Gray from Mars Venus series, Marci Shimoff from for No Reason, and Raymond Aaron from W Income Doing
They're
Good.
very impressive partners. I've
Yeah,
read all their books and they're phenomenal. So,
yeah.
congratulations on
Thank
being
you.
a collaborator with them. It's amazing.
Thank you. So that's when my Break Free series started. My chapter was called Break Free from the Pain Cycle. Because and a lot of people felt that was such a great title because it gave them hope that it's just a pain cycle. You can get out of it at any time. And that was the whole intention of calling my chapter that way. After that, I got opportunity to compile my own anthology. An anthology is a multi co-author book written under a same title, under the same theme, from your own perspective. And the first one was called Break Free to Stand in Your Power. I led 17 co authors in that, and it became an Amazon #1 international best-selling status. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And with that, I also created a virtual book launch called Break Free International Summit and Book Launch. And in that, I had prominent speakers, globally known, like Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, who is Dr. Deepak Chopra's brother, who's a mind, body, spirit expert. Dr. Kiran Bedi, the first Indian woman officer to reach the highest level, and some community leaders where we talked about how to stand in your power. So that was a big hit. I had 20,000 views on that.
Wow.
Thank you. And then I was like, this was really fun. It was one of the things that was the easiest thing for me to do, collaborating with everyone. And was just so enjoyable and just felt so powerful, sharing, creating a platform where I call everyday heroes, people like you and me, our neighbors, our sisters, mothers, neighbors, um, that have overcome such major challenges, but no way to really share. So I was really excited about this. So I continued with my second book, which was called Break Free to Peace, Love, and Unity, which just got released in February, end of February. And that also became an Amazon #1 international best-selling book. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you. So this is my path now. I have three more books coming up. Uh, the next one is also on Break Free series. It's called Break Free to Health and Vitality, where everyone's going to be sharing their recovery story or how they've always lived a healthy life or what the future of wellness is. And I also lead meditation. And the meditation is really helps you to go within, connect to yourself, and find the different aspects of what you should be working on. And so the combination with the book and the meditation, it just opens up all kinds of creative channel and helps you step into your power.
So you're feeling like you are definitely living in your power now.
Yes, and it's so interesting to see that the book titles that are coming out is what I'm stepping into or have stepped into. And this has become a very spiritual practice for me. It's like I'm divinely led to come up with the titles that are coming up, you know. So the fourth book is called The Art of Leadership, Leading Confidently in Any Season, and the fourth one is The Brighter Side of the Pandemic. So I'm just infusing the world with a lot of celebrations, a lot of transformation, so everyone can hear and see that it is possible to change from where you are today. You're not stuck, but you have to make that decision and step into your power, no matter how scary it is, and just be able to take those baby steps, the next step that is right, and just the next step.
Are you still involved in your husband's business at all?
No, no, I came out of that. That was another way because I enjoyed working with him in the project management business, because that enabled me to transform nearly 100,000 people in their own domains, in their own expertise, taking themselves to the next level. And it involved some kind of a wellness and mindset coaching as well because I was um, I was training leaders of 6 to 10 years of experience and helping them get to the next level, and so they all have their own challenges and the cultural difference because we had the opportunity to live in India at that time. I grew up in the States, but we went there and went there for 6 months and ended up being there for 10 years, creating some wonderful, amazing transformations over there for people and the society. So after that, I said, you know what? I want to do something on my own. And that's how I started.
So next, you have several more books coming out. Do you have any other plans coming up?
It seems that I'm going to be focusing on this right now. So, speaking, compiling books, and my events, the Break Free International Summit and events, those events, and meditation. I
Okay.
run I run meditation challenges and I also have a meditation mastermind for those who really want to get serious and do it on a daily basis. The other thing I've noticed, Cheryl, is that when you meditate as a group, it amplifies everything you're doing. And I do the kind of meditation that is loving kindness, which is also blessing the entire world. So you're blessing them, you're giving and receiving, which I think just amplifies it even more.
Yeah, I agree with that. I trained with someone who taught me of the power of a thought form that gets fed from multiple people. And
Yes.
the more it could be over many generations, like some of the rituals within the Catholic Church. I wasn't Catholic, but one of the reasons those are so powerful is because so many generations of people over such a long period of time have fed into the thought form. But you can also do it with a thought form with an immediate group all being focused on achieving a common goal. And it's huge.
It's huge. Yes. Yes.
So,
And I learned this when I became a Reiki master and a pranic healing practitioner. When as I was going through my healing journey, I was guided to different modalities, different things that not only worked for me, but I was meant to share and help others through their healing journey.
which is fantastic. Okay, so if somebody wanted to join your mastermind, would they go to your website? Would they? I'm going to put all the links below, but would they email you if they wanted to be part of one of your books? Are you open to that? And what's your criteria? Talk to people about how they can come into contact with you.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Cheryl. If the best way to get in touch with me for any of the programs is through my email, Seema at Seema Giri, that's SeemaGiri.com. I have Facebook presence also. For my books, it's Shine Your Brilliance as an author, Shine Your Brilliance. And I run meditation challenge all the time. My next one is April 12th through April 16th. So you can get a sneak peek on how it is. Um, but depending, but I have open enrollment in my meditation mastermind, which is so if you're a leader, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a healer, if you're a coach, and you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like you're not able to get to the next level, whether it's in your business or with yourself, this is a great way to connect because I feel this is the key to opening up the infinite possibilities within you. And we go through different layers as we're growing, and this just helps you go deeper and deeper in different layers as and when you are ready. But it's a consistent practice that helps you get there, just like anything else. And many people have this misconception that, oh, I'm not good at meditating, or I don't know how to do this. Meditation, you don't do it to get good at meditation. You meditate to get better at life. So you don't have to be perfect in meditation. You start someplace, and just like anything else, you start becoming more aware. It's not to purposely quiet down the mind. Your mind eventually quiets down because you have more awareness every time. And for the books, if you resonate with any of um, the titles, gen- generally what the theme is that the authors are sharing what they have overcome the major life challenge and created the life that they wanted, and then how they are serving others now. So you could be an entrepreneur if you're an entrepreneur, um, or have a business, or you're a coach. It really positions you with the instant credibility of being an expert in your area. So depending on what your motive is, objective is for writing, my books fit that in very beautifully.
Okay, great. Thank you. Is there anything that you would like to share with everyone that you haven't told them yet?
No, I think I've shared everything. The most important thing is for you to accept where you are right now. It's okay. You don't have to like it, but just accept, like, you know what? This is where I am. When you do that, every other resistance falls away. And then just see, as of right now, what is the best next step for you? Everyone is different. Just go in and talk to your body, talk to yourself, and ask yourself, what is the next best step? But you need to make a decision. So I request everyone who's in a situation that they want to change, they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, make that decision that no more. If you need someone outside of you, like I had my son, I think if it was just me, if I didn't have him, I might have not taken that plunge or that determination. Find your biggest why and use that. Make a decision, accept where you are, and take your next step.
And it only has to be one step at a time. You
Exactly.
don't have to take a giant leap. You just need to do little steps until suddenly you look back and you can't believe how far you've come. And one thing you said at the beginning that I want to reiterate is give yourself credit for what you're achieving. I
Yes.
actually did a little book where you can write down your victories every day because people would ask me what I had accomplished and I had to stop and think about it because I wasn't giving myself credit. But when I look back over the last 10 years, nothing about my life is the same. And I have accomplished a lot and I'm really happy now. So, for goodness sakes, as you take those little steps, they don't have to be giant victories. Every single little victory is worth celebrating and giving yourself the pat on the back for. And I put it in a little journal that I'm selling on Amazon with a place to practice gratitude at the same time. Because if you practice gratitude, you set your mind off on a positive note every day, first by giving yourself credit for where you've been, and then for giving thanks that that's what you have in your life now. And they both need to be celebrated every day.
Yes, it is these needlepoint movements that accumulate into big changes. So that is something to remember. And accomplishments doesn't have to be anything so great. The fact that you are here despite your pain is a huge accomplishment in itself. So if you're able to pick up a pen tomorrow, that is an accomplishment in itself. If you've spent the day not bashing yourself up or with a negative talk, or you had a smile, you were able to smile, that is an accomplishment. It doesn't mean accomplishments doesn't mean it's, you know, a best-selling book or some kind of award or some kind of a thing. It's these small things, things that bring you joy.
Right. Great. Fantastic. There's a lot here for people to implement in
Yeah.
steps, one step at a time, to come back to health. And as I said in the beginning, wherever you are today does not mean that that's where you have to be. You have more power than you give yourself credit for. And Seema is an excellent example of that, as am I. So don't let the world tell you that you have to be sick because you do not. Each step that you take can be one step back to health.
Yes,
So
it's possible.
it is possible. So thank you. I've loved talking with you, and I'm really delighted that I got to know you a little bit. So thank you very much for coming on my show and sharing your story with everyone and all of your amazing accomplishments. Um, it's really impressive what you've been able to do since you got well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my story and hopefully bless even just one single person. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Bye bye.